Pro-democracy activists in Vietnam are facing a government crackdown. They say they're being monitored, harassed, arrested and imprisoned for challenging the authority of the Communist Party. The latest case involves two dissidents who say they were forced to flee the country after falling foul of the authorities. Their crime? Talking to a journalist working for a British newspaper, The Guardian. The reporter they spoke to is Dustin Roasa, who explained what happened.
Well, the two people that I interviewed for the Guardian piece had to leave Vietnam. This happened within days of me interviewing them. They were both being monitored and questioned by the police about their conversations with me. And they both believed they faced substantial prison time if they stayed in Vietnam. So they're currently in exile outside of Vietnam. When Ngoc Quang has been granted refugee status and is awaiting settlement in a third country, when Tu Tram, her case is still being processed.
It's clear in your mind that when you were in the country talking to these two people, the authorities were aware they were being followed and so forth.
Yeah, we all knew that. I didn't know when I first went to the country that we were being monitored, but they had all had experience being monitored. You know, they had spent time in prison, and it was sort of a regular occurrence for them to be monitored and questioned by the police. I didn't realize that I was being monitored by the police until after I spoke to Nguyen Tu Chem. And when I found out that I was being monitored, I got on the phone with my other sources and asked them if they wanted to proceed with interviews. Most of them said they didn't want to. They thought it was too dangerous. But when Quang said he still wanted to go ahead with the interview.
I mean, does their case highlight, do you think, what is happening today to many pro-democracy activists in the country? Is it pretty much par for the course that this sort of thing is likely to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, ever since 2006, when a group of dissidents got together and they released a petition, a pro-democracy petition, the group is known as Block 8406 for the date of the petition, there's been a cycle of growing and easing repression. And I think we're currently in a pretty prominent crackdown. This has been happening since January when there was a party congress, when the Vietnamese authorities got together to map out the future of the country for the next 5 years. So since that time, it's been pretty intense for activists. Since July 30th, 15 religious activists have been thrown in prison, and other activists have faced monitoring, harassment, and possible jail time too.
Is it also the case of the authorities perhaps being a little bit worried by what they're seeing elsewhere in the world, notably the Arab Spring?
Yes, I think so. And then also worries about a possible Jasmine revolution in China. And the factions that control the Vietnamese government are all conservative. So it's just really not in their interest to allow dissent to happen.
And yet it's not as if Vietnam is a pariah state. There's no shortage of countries queuing up to do business with Vietnam. Why is that?
Well, its economy is growing substantially. Ever since the mid-'80s when it opened up, it's seen steady economic growth. Tourism is growing there. It's a growing destination for Western tourists. And then I think also countries like the United States see Vietnam as a counterbalance to China in the region. And the U.S. has been vocal in taking Vietnam's side in disputes with China over islands in the South China Sea. But I think what's happening is the United States and these other countries are not talking about human rights in their relationship with Vietnam.
Journalist Dustin Roasa. And that's all from us for now, but an updated version of the Global News podcast will be available for you to download later. I'm Mark Whittaker. Until next time, bye-bye.